But while in the Oval Office, Donald Trump was way friendlier than expected with Zohran Mamdani. Of course, there was media that didn't want it to be as friendly. They wanted to get in a good moment. And so for some reason in this press conference, which is supposed to have journalists or whatever, they had Jack Posobiec there for some reason, a right-wing influencer. And he was trying to have some sort of moment with Mamdani. Take a look.
I want to know, one of the policies as well that Mayor-elect Mamdani talked a number of times about on the campaign was shifting the tax burden for property taxes from what he called minority communities to white-based communities and putting more taxes on white people. I also noticed that in your acceptance speech you didn't mention anything about America or Christians or white people in general, and so I didn't know if that was one of the policies that you guys had spoken about.
We focused on affordability, we focused on the cost of living crisis. What I will say is that I am very much interested in property tax reform, because what we see right now in New York City is a system that is so inequitable that it can't even stand up in court.
But to be clear, you're continuing this idea of race-based property taxes.
No, to be very clear,
that's what you said.
No, the use of the term was a description of neighborhoods, not a description of intent.
So you intend to tax the whiter neighborhoods more?
No, we intend to create a fair property tax system because we want a New York City that is not only fair and equitable, but also one that every New Yorker can afford.
It is amazing how more even-keeled Mamdani is than I would be in that moment. I would have gone wild in that. So you have a guy who's standing amongst where journalists are supposed to be, who's not a journalist, no ethics, not one ethical bone in his body, lying about what Mamdani said. It might have been enough for many right-wingers for him to accurately describe, as we will, what Mamdani actually said. Instead, he made up terms that Mamdani has not said. He said it was gonna be race-based taxation. That is wild exaggeration over anything that Mamdani has said. Mamdani is answering his question and he's cutting in, yes you did, yeah you did. And like, what is crazy to me is Mamdani is standing next to Donald Trump there. Mamdani is being peppered by some influencer hack, obviously biased questions intended to create a viral moment. He's interrupting him, and Mamdani is so damn presidential. It's like Barack Obama standing right there. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is asked on his plane, super relevant question, and he melts down. Quiet, piggy, he yells because a woman dares to ask him newsworthy questions. And so you have those two politicians standing next to each other with very different levels of expectations and very different abilities to not get triggered and just melt down when they don't like something that they're being asked of. In any event, and here's maybe an opportunity for that guy, that influencer, to actually learn what Mamdani really said. So he had this homeowner policy memo where he said the administration will shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. So you can say maybe he shouldn't have had the word whiter there at all. It's undoubtedly demographically correct. But he's not saying we're gonna take the tax burden off of people of color and put it on white people. He didn't say it's gonna be race-based taxation. He said we're gonna move it away from some of the areas that are lower class and move it to these richer and whiter neighborhoods. Which again, like if he had just read that, MAGA would have melted down. The word white is there, it's being said by a guy who's not white. That would have been enough, but it wasn't enough for him. He had to juice it up in a dishonest way.
Yeah, I hear you, but I'm so used to Posobiec's dishonesty and unfairness. He's the author of Pizzagate, right? That I thought it was a relatively normal question coming from him. So why? Because that comment does exist, the one that John just read you, originally from Mamdani. And I remember covering it and saying, I really wish he hadn't said whiter. Like there's no need for the white description, right? But Mamdani handled it really well by saying that it was a description and not intent. So what he means by that is, it was a description of those neighborhoods that exist, whether we like it or not, they are richer and whiter, right? But not intent as in, I intend to go after whiter neighborhoods, right? No, they just happen to be whiter. That's not the important part. The rich is the important part because then you want to pay appropriate amount of taxes. It's not about punishment, just proportionate, right? So I think that the putting white there was a distraction and he didn't need it, and it bothered me that he did it. I'm not at all surprised that a conservative would ask him about that. I would be shocked if somebody didn't ask him about that, right? He handled it pretty well. I thought the only part where Posobiec was too dishonest. Like I expect the bad framing. I expect this the intentionally wrong framing on that question. But then when he comes back and says, "Oh, so you intend for it to be whiter neighbors?" No, he said the exact opposite.
Right. Well, he also invented race-based taxation. That's nothing. That's nowhere. He just invented as if he said that. And also, I think with that performance you just saw from him there, I think is a great summation of what the purpose of people like that is, what effect they're supposed to have in politics, how they're supposed to influence politics. Because let's get to intent. So we read you that line. Jack Posobiec wants you to believe they're going after white people. Well, you don't have to like make up an intent. Zohran Mamdani in the memo says what the purpose of this is and why the policy needs to be changed. It's not an arbitrary thing where we want to take down taxes here and put them here. He explains why. He says the property tax system is under the current status quo unbalanced because assessment levels are artificially capped. So homeowners in expensive neighborhoods pay less than their fair share. It's like the payroll contribution to Social Security. We just decided, because rich people buy politicians, we're only gonna pay up to a certain amount. We're not gonna pay on the full value. If you don't have a lot of money or if you have a house that's of a moderate amount, you'll pay on the entire thing. But I'm a rich person, I don't wanna pay on the entire thing, so I'm gonna cap it. And he's saying, why don't we make it fair and equitable and uncap it on the wealthy? And that's where an influencer like Jack Posobiec comes in. He takes something that is inherently about fixing a class-based rigging of the system that currently is here and says, no, don't worry about that. I'm gonna protect the rich by pretending this is a race thing. So I'm gonna continue to allow, my goal is for rich people to continue to get away without paying their fair share. And then meanwhile, I'm gonna get poor white people to be angry, to be PO'd because they think something racist is happening against them. That is the point of so much right-wing media, and you just saw it in demonstration in the Oval Office right there.
Yeah, I hear you, John. But the reason why Mamdani originally shouldn't have given them that opening
I agree with you about that one.
Yeah, is because like if you said about Dearborn, Michigan, there's a lot of rich Muslims there. You'd be like, why do you need the Muslim part, right? Like if your issue is rich property taxes or a lot of rich Jews in the Hamptons we should tax more. But like, no. Why are you including the race, identity, etc.?
I agree with you.
Yeah. So, but nevertheless, I agree with you, John, that that's a tiny thing, right? That they're trying to blow up into a bigger issue, partly to smear Mamdani, but also partly to protect the rich, right? And that's the real issue at hand here. Why is the property tax capped? That they want to avoid that issue, the core issue, like the plague, right? Because almost all the donors of the right wing are super rich and love that provision. All right, last things go to our audience. Mad Mama 112 said on Super Chat, Mamdani's a true populist. Trump knows the value of populism. His polls are tanking and his base is rebelling. This is a ploy to look reasonable. So this goes to answer John's question, a lot of you guys did in the beginning. Why is Trump being nice here, right? One is, once he talks to someone and they're not mean to him, he's much more open, right? Two is, I think that Mad Mama here is right, that he's like, okay, I see now, affordability, I heard you on affordability.
We're the same.
Oh yeah, me and him on affordability, totally. And also me and him on populism, right?
Yeah.
And his populist credentials are being challenged now. JBay5850 is a member on YouTube and said Trump and Mamdani aim for America first in their own way, regardless of which side. Both should support this. And there is a little bit of that connection. Donald Trump's not really America first. He's been very Israel first, right? And but again, to the same point, his base is rebelling about his Israel first policies. So Mamdani got a lot of credit, including from Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene, on being America first. They're like, why should the mayor of New York have to go to Israel? That's crazy, right? Which he was asked about over and over again in the debate. So now Trump is also saying, yeah, it's here at home, affordability, populism, that's what I meant, right? But at least it's politically savvy and it's turning around a little bit. Now, the last way you could think about it, and by the way, thank you for being members, and I love that you're part of the show and you make these brilliant points. Hit the join button below on YouTube, become a member, or tyt.com/join, wherever you are. But I think the last way you could look at it, which is enormously positive, and all of these things are true, is that Zohran Mamdani was so good at this that he went and charmed Trump without agreeing with him on anything, without switching any of his positions, and got Trump to seem to be agreeing with him rather than vice versa. And that is super well played.
That's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, so great job by Zohran Mamdani there. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.